Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're looking at the crazy world of Rooibos. If you're a South African, you should be very familiar with this delicious liquid. It's good, but you may not know how it came to be South Africa's most loved tea. So we're going to look into it. We're going to start off with what is Rooibos. So Rooibos the plant is an unassuming shrub-like bush with a smooth-barked main stem and delicate side branches bearing soft, needle-like leaves. Fancy. These plants stand around 1.5 meters tall at maturity. That's pretty big. And honestly, they just kind of look like some sort of regular grass. So when you see it, it's like, oh, no, grass. But it's actually a miracle grass. Rooibos only grows in the Cederberg and the southwestern regions of South Africa and nowhere else on earth. And that's crazy, and people have tried to grow it elsewhere, it just doesn't work. It only works here because of the perfect environmental conditions. That is the soil, temperature, minerals and microorganisms that are perfect for this plant. Rooibos thrives in well-drained, sandy, acidic and nutrient-poor sandstone-derived soils. It is adapted to hot, dry summers and cool, wet winters. What's cool about Rooibos is it is a naturally caffeine-free beverage. It's low in tannins, and if you don't know what those are, it's the bitter compounds in green and black tea. And Rooibos does not contain any oxalic acid. This acid can increase your risk of developing kidney stones. So Rooibos is great. It even has alpha hydroxy acid. We're learning fancy words here. A chemical that's often found in anti-aging cosmetics. So Rooibos can literally make you younger. Outside of South Africa, it is called bush tea or red bush tea, and that's predominantly in Great Britain. The name Rooibos is Afrikaans deriving from rooi bos, meaning red bush. The name is protected in South Africa and has protected designation of origin status in the EU. And this is actually important because a company in the US tried to copyright the name Rooibos, and there was like a whole legal battle for a long time. But it's South African, we own it. Generally, the Rooibos leaves undergo oxidation. This process produces the distinctive reddish-brown color that we know of Rooibos. It also enhances the flavor. You can get unoxidized green Rooibos, but the process of producing this green Rooibos makes it more expensive than traditional Rooibos. Rooibos is commonly prepared as a tisane or tisane, a new word, which basically means herbal tea. We're learning new things today. This infusion is either consumed on its own, and I think that's the best, or can be flavored by milk, lemon, sugar, honey. It is also served as lattes and cappuccinos or even iced tea, or as I ordered at Plato once, and I think they should actually add it to the menu, Rooibos iced latte. If you've never tried that, it's amazing. Give it a try. That's Rooibos and what it is. Now let's dive into the fascinating history of Rooibos. The story of Rooibos begins well over 300 years ago. European explorers noted that the tea was being used by the Khoisan people. For the most part, the story that Rooibos tea is a traditional drink of the Khoi-descended people of the Cederberg area is correct, but it hasn't actually been possible to trace this tradition any further back than the last quarter of the 19th century. Unfortunately, there are no earlier ethnobotanical records of Rooibos, and no Khoi or San vernacular names have ever been recorded for it. It appears that both the indigenous and the colonial inhabitants that arrived of these Rooibos growing areas contributed to the traditional knowledge of Rooibos in some way. For instance, medicinal uses may have been introduced before the 18th century by Khoisan pastoralists or San hunter-gatherers. Also, the use of this Rooibos plant to make tea, including the production process such as bruising and oxidizing of the leaves, is probably more likely to have been introduced in colonial times by settlers who are accustomed to drinking other kinds of tea from around the world like Asia. Traditionally though, the local people would climb the mountains in the Cederberg area and cut the fine needle-like leaves from wild Rooibos plants. They would then roll these bunches of leaves into Hessian bags and bring them down the steep slopes using donkeys. Rooibos tea was traditionally processed by beating the material on a flat rock with a heavy wooden pole or club, or a large wooden hammer. The manner in which the wild Rooibos plants growing naturally high up in the Cederberg Mountains were harvested for their leaves and processed by the local people was noted by a botanist called Carl Thunberg in 1772. And he noted that the Khoisan people produced a kind of tea from the leaves of Rooibos The actual Rooibos industry only came into existence during the 1900s, and it picked up traction at the turn of the 20th century thanks to the initiative of the Ginsberg family, who are the founders of the oldest brand in the Rooibos tea industry, 11 O'Clock. Let's look at the Ginsbergs. In 1904, a young Russian immigrant whose father owned a trading post near Clanwilliam, Benjamin Ginsberg, invented the Rooibos tea curing process that is used today. This was done after much experimentation and involves sweating or fermenting the Rooibos plant. Mr. Ginsberg had manufacturing connections in the tea industry, and once he figured out the perfect recipe, he began to sell and market the drink as a herbal alternative to traditional tea. And he actually called this tea mountain tea. Mr. Ginsberg achieved great success, and by the 1920s, there was such a high demand for this Rooibos tea that it led to problems with supply, and unfortunately, farming Rooibos had not been achieved yet. At the time, there was a major hurdle in growing Rooibos commercially, and that was that farmers couldn't germinate the Rooibos seeds. And this is where Dr. Peter Lafras-Nautier comes into the picture. Dr. Nautier is obviously a doctor, but not only a doctor, he was a district surgeon and a naturalist and a business partner of the Ginsbergs. So he was clearly a clever and quite a busy man. He discovered that Rooibos could be germinated by scarification of the seed outer coating, and this was done through grinding and planting of scarified seeds into acidic soil. For those like me who just learnt a new word, scarification is the process of weakening or damaging the seed's tough outer coat to allow water and air to penetrate within. Nautier worked on this cultivation of the Rooibos species in partnership with farmers Olof Berg and William Riordan, and with the encouragement of his friend Benjamin Ginsberg. Mr. Olof Berg harvested a large amount of Rooibos in 1925 on his farm Kleinvlei in the Pakhuis Mountains. Nautier then collected seeds from the Pakhuis Mountains and in a large valley called Grootkloof, and in that place, this is where those first selected seeds are known as the Nautier type and red tea type. And this is the origins of Rooibos as we know it. Nautier continued working on this process on his farm Kleinvlei into the 1930s until he finally developed a strain that was viable for farming. His discoveries actually earned him an honorary doctorate from the University of Stellenbosch in 1948 for his valuable contribution to agriculture in South Africa. He was also very involved in the early know-how when it comes to the crafting of Rooibos tea, developing some early production methods and assisting in creating frameworks for the Rooibos value chain. Like I said, he's a busy guy. Over the next decade, the price of seeds rose to £80, like the currency, per pound of Rooibos, which is the most expensive vegetable seed in the world, as these farmers rushed to plant Rooibos. Nautier and Ginsberg are accepted as the fathers of the Rooibos tea industry. In the 1950s, the Rooibos industry started to get organized with the formation of the Clanwilliam Tea Cooperative, which later then became the Rooibos Tea Control Board. Sounds pretty ominous. It's not that ominous though. And then in 1968, Dr. Anneke Theron, a South African mother who was struggling with an infant that had a lot of allergies, decided she was going to look into this, and she actually put a spotlight on Rooibos. She claimed that it soothed her baby's colic, and she published a book called Allergies: An Amazing Discovery. After the book's release, hundreds of studies found out more about Rooibos's tea's antioxidants and other health advantages. And so, with this new medical understanding of Rooibos, the tea's popularity exploded, especially within South Africa. Moving forward into the 1990s, the Tea Control Board became privatized and it became Rooibos Limited, a company that is today part of a wider group of players within the Rooibos industry. Moving forward again, in April 2005, a number of Rooibos industry role players, which included producers, processors and other parties, formed the South African Rooibos Council. Seemed fancy. Jumping 1 year ahead, in 2006, a new Rooibos innovation in the form of an espresso became apparent. It was the first tea espresso in the world. Red cappuccino is now a well-known drink in coffee shops. And I actually love red cappuccino as like an alternative to coffee because it doesn't have caffeine. And if you want to drink it after a dinner out or late in the afternoon, it's amazing. Really recommend. Today, Rooibos tea is an economic mainstay of the town of Clanwilliam and the greater Cederberg region as a whole. And Rooibos actually honors the Khoisan people who used the Rooibos bush long before settlers arrived. And the Rooibos Council, the ominous Rooibos Council, actually contributes a percentage of all tea sales to the Khoisan people. The Rooibos industry today is actually thriving, with local sales and volumes and exports equivalent to 5.6 billion cups of tea, and it actually shows promise for domestic and international growth. And this is amazing as a proudly South African product. Very quickly, let's look at the typical Rooibos process as it works and follows now. In late January, the seed is germinated and planted in nurseries. Following 4 months of nurturing the seeds, and as winter rains get underway and the temperature drops, a few million small organic seedlings are transplanted into fields to grow. Towards the end of the year, from December to February, Rooibos is harvested and organized into 10 to 15 kilogram bundles, which are then transported via trucks to processing facilities. At these facilities, the bundles are sorted and fed into cutting machines. These machines maintain a uniform cut and make sure all the Rooibos looks neat and good. After being cut, the Rooibos is carefully bruised. It's then aired and watered. This process changes the color of the plant material from green to red. Next up, fermented Rooibos is spread out across tea courts to dry out. From start to finish, the process takes about 24 hours, and the end product, Rooibos tea, is sucked up by a machine and fed into bulk bags. And that's it. It's then shipped off to different companies to make tea or other Rooibos products. So that's Rooibos, its history, and the process involved around producing Rooibos tea. I made this video because of a comment from a friend, so if you're wanting me to make a video about a specific topic, let me know in the comments and I'll definitely look into it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Now go have a cup of Rooibos tea. Cheers.